Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring.
I say to you today, my friend, let freedom ring.
The newest voice for the conservative American. It's about faith. It's about family. It's about freedom.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Barry Curtis and the Curtis Report starts now.
Welcome back to the Curtis Report. Appreciate you joining us back here. We do this thing every single Sunday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You already know that because you've made us the number one conservative Christian talk radio show in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Thanks for doing that. You know, I always have to give kudos out to my friends in Facebook. The Curtis Report on Facebook. Unbelievable. Tens of thousands of you. Thank you for chiming in, engaging in lively political discussion, really being supportive of the show, wearing the T-shirts, the bracelets, the whole 9 yards. But the Curtis Report on Facebook, check that out. Lively discussion, political discussion as always going on there. We talk about family, faith, and freedom here on the show. So also check out the Son of Man Bible Study also on Facebook as we talk about Jesus Christ being our Lord and Savior. Check that out, the Son of Man Bible Study. As always, follow along with us on our website, which is thecurtisreport.com or thecurtisinitiative.com. Take you to the same place, but you'll mostly see thecurtisreport.com, and you'll see bios and photos of former guests, current guests, future guests, always there on the show. You know the routine. But again, that's the Curtis Report. www.thecurtisreport.com. Check us out. We got a great guest coming up here in just a moment, but just a brief, and you know, we spent a lot of time on my buddy John Wiley Price, and I'm not going to spend this much of this segment on him because we've talked about him in previous segments. But I want you to reflect on a couple of points about John Wiley Price. And again, we covered that in earlier segments, so I'm not going to do that. John Wiley Price, Dallas County Commissioner, still in that role as Dallas County Commissioner, still getting a salary as Dallas County Commissioner, still under federal indictment, 107-page federal criminal indictment. Those indictments involved him using the office to enrich himself and taking bribes. Still there. Still supposedly working, still drawing his salary. On top of all that, you're paying the taxpayers of Dallas County for his criminal defense. His criminal defense. He's getting a salary. You're paying for his criminal defense. As a result of his misdeeds, the taxpayers of Dallas County are paying for his criminal. That's the essence of arrogance. On top of all that, he's announced he's running for re-election next year. Unbelievable. Reflect on that. Just reflect on that. Hey, great guest coming up. I think it's our first time on the show. And this topic, I'm sure, is going to draw a lot of attention because it's just something that's so much in the forefront, of who we are and what we do, and like our modum operatus now. It's just how we operate to a certain degree. But this is really cool, and I think we can get some additional insight on this, particularly you parents who are sitting there at the dinner table with your son and your daughter, and as you're trying to enjoy that wonderful meal that's been cooked, your son or daughter has got their smartphone out, pinging and tapping and texting away. We've all been there. Look here. I want to welcome to the show Jean Burk. Jean, welcome to the Curtis Report.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Look, first of all, tell us a little bit about you before we get into these smartphones and how they're dumbing down our kids. Tell us about Jean Burk.
Well, Jean Burk was a homeschooling mom who had no money for college for her kids and discovered 13 years ago that there's actually free college based on test scores because colleges go up in their rankings. The higher the test score, the more money you get because it makes them look good. And so just kind of a short story long, we worked on the test, practiced on it, and my son became a National Merit Scholar, and we ended up throwing away 7 trash bags full of college offers from full ride, free tuition, room and board, and so forth. And then after my daughter received her scholarship information, and my friends wanted to know what we did, and, I wrote a program at College Prep Genius, and so for the last 11 years, I've been able to teach my program, all across the United States and now in several countries. It's also online, digital, as well as hard copies. So it's been a huge blessing to not only get free college, with my kids, and, my daughter went on and she earned free grad school and my son earned free law school, but to be able to help other people, thousands of people every year, do the same thing. So it's just been great.
Jean Burk, we've got Tell us about, because it's an interesting points that you bring out about the kids and cell phones, and probably can transfer over to kids and computers and kids in this, but particularly kids and cell phones. Tell me how you got interested in this, and tell me what's the biggest problem you see with this?
Well, because I do still, have the influence of thousands of kids every year, teenagers, I am seeing this addiction. And, according to the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse at Columbia, 1 in 4 kids, teenagers, actually admit to being addicted to their phone. Now, those are just the ones who admit to it. Right. The problem is they're spending an average of about 11 hours a day, on some sort of device, be it the smartphone or the iPad. And, their nervous system is still developing. And so this continual use of technology is altering their structures faster and more intensely than in adults. So what it's doing is interfering with their development. It's impairing their judgment. It's heightening their risk of all kinds of addictions. So
you say addiction. I mean, this is like an addiction in the sense of what we accept addiction to be: alcohol and drug addiction or sexual addiction. I mean, is it treated the same way, like with 12-step program or psychological? Tell us about. I mean, how is that treated if it's truly an addiction?
I think it's so new that I don't even know if people are even addressing it so much as addiction yet. I think we're going to see probably a lot of programs or a lot of companies, doing something about it. But I think the problem is people aren't equating it to an addiction. I think sometimes parents are thinking, well, they're just teenagers. Yeah. Or I want my teenagers, not to be behind, the times, and so I'm going to let them do it. So I think we will see some things in the future. Right now, there isn't anything necessarily set apart just for that. But
how does a parent know it's truly a problem as opposed to just a kid using their cell phone? How do we identify that this is truly a problem?
I think when your kid, if they get angry, if you say, hey, listen, we need to create some tech-free zones, tech-free times in our home, whether it's the 4 to 7 o'clock hour, so that the kids can do their homework and have dinner, or whether it's bedtime or whatever. And when the kids start getting angry or start complaining or sneak around and do it behind your back, that's a problem.
But isn't that any teenager? I mean, isn't that pretty much any teenager under any type of a disciplinary activity? They're going to get angry and sneak around and try to do it. But is it affecting? And are you seeing as someone part of the in the educational career aspect? Are you seeing what's the effect of this in classroom? What are you seeing as far as and hearing about classroom effect of this?
Oh, sure. Teachers are so upset because, the kids are doing it in class. The kids are not focusing. What happens is these kids are doing a lot of multitasking, but in a way that they're jumping from screen to screen and from app to app, and they're really only giving partial attention to everything. And so that is carrying over to the classroom to where the kids can't focus. And they're losing their ability to have those critical thinking traits and deep thinking, problem solving that they need to get into college and, of course, ultimately have a career. So it's definitely affecting not only how they, focus on their or lack of focus on their work, but we're also seeing a lot of fatigue in the classroom. The studies have shown that 2/3 of 11 to 17-year-olds are taking their phones to bed with them, and they're not doing homework. I mean, they're texting or talking or watching movies, so they're not getting sleep, and those blue lights that are emitted interrupts your sleeping hormones.
Is there something? Now, I'm part of a different generation. I'm the last of the baby boomers, born in '65. So, I mean, So, let me ask you: is this something that's just generational? I mean, is the use and the constant use of smart devices something that is going to be just par for the course in the future? Part of the social aspect of how we communicate and how people live? Is this something we have to get used to and have a deeper part of our lives?
I think people might think that, oh, well, this is just technology and we need to run with it. But I think we need to take a step back and say, no, we would have never allowed our children to spend 11 hours on the TV before, or 11 hours doing things that could be detrimental to them. So we need, as parents, we need to step back and say, hey, you know what, we need to take our family back. I mean, it takes courage to be a parent nowadays.
Right.
You as a parent, you're not your kids' friends. they've got friends. They don't need friends. Your job as a parent is to nurture them and to guide them, into the person that you want to ultimately be friends with as adults. And so by loving them and protecting them, you have to say, you know what, this is too much. This is, 11. If you put 11 hours a day into your homework, or 11 hours a day into building a business, or into your studies, imagine what you could do. And I think here's a big clue. Mm-hmm. We can take a page out of the life of some of the smartest, brilliant minds technologically. Steve Jobs, Evan Williams. One of the things that these men did, and they all have this in common, and there's several of those men, is they never allowed any screens in their children's bedrooms. Not a phone, not a computer, not a TV. Because they not only know the benefits of technology, but they also know the dangers of it. And even Steve Jobs himself did not allow his children to own an iPad.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Gene Burk, we're out of time here, up against a hard break. Tell us how we get a hold of you.
You can go to my website, collegeprepgenius.com. You can email us if if your kids need to ACE test, get scholarship money, email us at info, at collegeprepgenius.com, or you can call my office, 817-282-7737.
Gene Burk. Appreciate that. I'm sure there's much to come on that. We got to get you back. Appreciate you being here, Gene.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back with just more of the Curtis Report in just a moment.